It is their first budget, and if you're a parent with daycare-age kids, you'll want to hear what the Ford government is promising. The budget will be handed down on Thursday, and CBC Toronto has uncovered one of the key programs it will contain, a daycare rebate. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has the exclusive details.
Hello. This mums group meets every Monday here at the Oaks and Acorns Activity Centre. One of the things on the minds of these parents, what will they do for daycare when they head back to work?
One big concern still is it's extremely difficult to find childcare.
Wait list for the daycares, that's the thing that I'm concerned about right now. Not really so much about the budget, it's more so can I get a spot for my daughter in about 10 months or so.
If these mums can find spots, there will be some new financial help available. CBC News has learned that the Ford government's first budget will include a partial tax rebate for daycare costs. Sources close to the government say Finance Minister Vic Fedeli will reveal the details when he tables the budget on Thursday.
Well, certainly, as you referenced, we certainly campaigned on ensuring that childcare across Ontario is accessible and affordable and flexible for families from one end of this province to another. So stay tuned till Thursday.
The sources could not say exactly what the daycare rebates will be worth, but before they got elected, this is what the PCs promised. For one child under age 6, the maximum rebate for the poorest families would be $563 a month. For a family with household income ranging from $53,000 to $95,000 a year, the rebate would max out at $450 a month. The rebate would also go to families with household income as high as $200,000. They would get $210 a month for their child's daycare costs.
The cost of childcare is significantly more than the $450 a month or so that you get a rebate for.
The daycare rebate was first promised by former PC leader Patrick Brown. Then Doug Ford committed to the same plan before the election. Daycare advocates have criticized the PC's proposed rebates for helping wealthy families nearly as much as low-income parents and for doing nothing to address the supply of childcare spaces. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Also in the upcoming budget, it's been a long tradition south of the border, and it appears parking lot tailgate parties will soon be allowed in Ontario.
We think that people in Ontario should be given the opportunity to be treated like adults, and I think it would be kind of fun.
More details expected in Thursday's budget, but the plan is to allow sports fans to have a drink and a tailgate before a game. Smith says it's been talked about for years, but no previous government has made it a reality. The interim Liberal leader says it's more proof the government has the wrong priorities.
Most important priorities for us here are healthcare and education. And I'm not sure whether this is a tactic to divert the public's attention away from those really important things. It's just interesting in advance of the budget.
Tailgating will be made possible by amending a regulation that sets out terms for special occasion liquor permits.
1 week after they became legal, just 2 of Toronto's 5 pot shops are actually open. That's great news for the 2 that are, like the Honey Pot here on Queen Street, where people still line up. But it's also great for the illicit market.
This is more of a case where they're blatantly breaking the locks that were changed by the Toronto Police, and they're going back in operating in the same location.
I'm Ali Chiasson, and I'll have that story coming up.
We are learning more tonight about the days leading up to the murder of a popular Scarborough family doctor. Dr. Alana Frick was killed in 2016. Her husband, a Toronto neurosurgeon, pleaded guilty to killing her today. Talia Ritchie has more on the case that shook the medical community and sparked more dialogue about domestic violence.
The only justice we will have if she can come back, and she will never come back.
Words shared by Dr. Alana Frick's mother, moments after Mohammed Shamji pleaded guilty to her daughter's murder. 2 of the couple's 3 children and Frick's parents sat in court. It was the first time the kids, now 11 and 14, have seen their father since his arrest.
Justice will never be for us.
Despite their pain, the family says they're satisfied with today's plea. Shamji was initially charged with first-degree murder and committing an indignity to human remains in the death of his wife.
It's obviously a very emotional time for them. This was just one. There was a custody proceeding, there were civil proceedings. It's tremendously relieving that it did result in a guilty plea.
Frick died from strangulation and blunt force trauma. Her body was found in a suitcase near an underpass in Vaughan on December 1st, 2016. Court documents state their oldest daughter woke up to her parents arguing a day earlier. When the 11-year-old went to investigate, Shamji ordered her to go back to bed.
Domestic abuse is something that is a huge issue, and you shouldn't take their silence over these 2.5 years as not wanting to help prevent domestic abuse. And as I said, once the sentencing is done, you will hear a lot from them.
According to court documents, the couple's marriage was in trouble at the time Frick went missing. She had filed for divorce just 2 days before she was murdered. Friends, family, colleagues, and people who were affected by Shamji's actions will have the chance to read their victim impact statements at his sentencing hearing on May 8th. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Two of the accused in a Markham kidnapping made their court appearances today. Both Abdullahi Adan and Hashim Abdullahi are accused of kidnapping and assaulting 22-year-old Wang Zhenlu. This happened at a parking garage at a Markham condo in late March. Two other suspects remain on the run, including the driver of the getaway van, who hasn't been identified.
The suspect that we have yet to identify is the one we've put out the images with the blue pants and the dark colored jacket. So that's the suspect that we're still looking to find out who that person is. It's kind of a unique pair of pants, but at the same time, our investigators still have not been able to figure out who that is yet.
Investigators asking anyone with information about the suspects to come forward. Coming up, exclusive access to a huge OPP drug bust will take you inside a meth lab and explain why the drugs are only part of the concern.
It can be anywhere 6 pounds of toxic waste is produced, and they usually like to get rid of that away from the property or on the property.
It's been 1 week since you've been able to buy weed in stores legally, but only 2 of Toronto's 5 pot shops are actually open. It's been disappointing for consumers looking for variety, and according to the city, it's allowing the black market to thrive. Let's go live to Ali Chiasson at Honey Pot on Queen. And Ali, the stores that are open are cleaning up since they have little competition right now, but so are the illegal dispensaries.
That's right. It was certainly a good move for the Honey Pot to be the first to open. They're still seeing lineups down the block. They're selling a ton, but so are illegal dispensaries, which are back in a big way.
I have high hopes, but they probably don't have anything much left. It's been open a week. And
for some consumers, the novelty of buying weed legally in person has worn off.
They're okay. I mean, they got a lot of product, but they're more expensive.
About 30% more if you had bought it illegally.
You said you know what you're going to get, but what are you expecting in there?
I'm expecting similar to what was open before they shut them all down, just maybe with debit and credit available, not cash only.
Dispensaries are back and badder than ever.
They're blatantly breaking the locks that were changed by the Toronto Police, and they're going back in operating in the same location.
The city says 28 illegal cannabis stores are open right now. Back in January, only 16 were around.
This is all money, and they saw an opportunity that they jumped on and are continuing to try and capitalize on.
Taking a huge risk.
I don't know if property owners fully understand the risk and liability as a landlord they take on when they allow these operations to continue. They can see fines up to a maximum of $1 million if they're a corporation. They can see possible jail time up to a year for it.
Shraga says the black market will continue to thrive the longer it takes for Tokyo Smoke to open, Nova Cannabis to open, and Canna Cabana to open.
Those 3 stores are all still in various stages of approval and securing permits. If they're not open by the end of April, they are supposed to lose their $50,000 credit, and they're supposed to lose that money as the weeks go by. I'm told that so far no deductions have been made. That could be the province giving these stores a little leeway considering the rush and the pressure they're under. Dwight.
Thank you, Ali. Nick, I saw some neighbors in the garden today. The salt and the shovels have been put away. We've turned the corner, buddy.
Well, yes, but just hang on there a sec, Dwight. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here.
Oh, no.
But I was saying on radio earlier that if you were planting any flowers, you may have to protect them midweek, okay? However, let's stick with the good news first. I was always taught when you give bad news, sandwich it with good news. So here's the good news first. We hit 14 degrees today. We're sitting at 13 degrees right now. In fact, the warmest of the places down in southwestern Ontario, Windsor, was at 22 or is at 22 degrees right now, and that's also the daytime high. Now we are tracking a little bit of rainfall that's headed our way. It's in the wake of this cloud cover that we're seeing right now over the GTA, but sunshine just to the southwest of us, and we're going to get into clear skies. That will also, by the way, help for some fog to develop through the overnight period. So we'll see some fog patches and also some rain showers that are going to move in around about the morning commute. Here's a look at the next 24 hours then. Tonight, fairly mild night at 6 degrees, cloud cover clearing out, then some fog patches through the very late overnight period into the morning commute. We're looking at a few spotty showers, not a whole lot here. We're talking about 1 or 2, maybe 5 millimeters of rain at most to areas north of the GTA. Highs to 11 degrees, so we're still doing okay there. Winds start to pick up again about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. Now, in the long-range forecast, or not in the not too distant future, we're looking at temperatures dropping for the overnights below zero, and we could see a little bit in the way of rain and perhaps some wet snow flurries. I didn't want to say it, but a few wet snow flurries. I'll have full details on that and just how long it's going to last coming up in a bit.
Yeah, the gardeners need your advice, buddy. We'll check back with you later. Thanks, Nick. Dozens of condo owners in Thornhill are saying enough is enough after they were hit with rapidly rising fees and assessments costing them more than $1 million. They are taking steps to kick out their condo board, which they say keeps demanding more and more money. As John Lancaster explains, what's not clear is where all that cash is going.
Horrendous. Residents of the Fountain condos near Bathurst and Steele say their 5-year-old complex has maintenance issues and financial issues, big ones.
I cried with residents, I cried with people.
Fernanda Casano says last month was the latest slap in the face. The condo board hit owners with a $1 million bill to make up for budget shortfalls. The payments are on top of rapidly rising monthly maintenance fees.
It's about $900. It's almost as much as my mortgage.
Alex Ben-Chedrod is now forking over $1,650 a month in maintenance and assessment fees for his 2-bedroom unit. He's considered selling, but says he's been told the building's rapidly rising fees have devalued the complex.
When you want to sell, the first how much money you pay maintenance, and you compare to the other building, it's expensive.
He blames the condo board, which controls the complex's $2.7 million operating budget. CBC News has learned that since being elected, the board has fired almost all the Fountain's original contractors and replaced them with new ones. But minutes from board meetings don't always explain how or why. And several major contracts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars appear to be signed only by the board's condo president, Stan Morris. That's a violation of the building's own regulations. Morris has told CBC News through emails that the board has hiked fees and hit owners with more than $1 million in special assessments because the complex's current budget just isn't enough to cover rising costs of repairs and maintenance. Condo law expert Audrey Loeb says the situation should be a warning to all condo buyers.
You're paying a form of payment on a monthly basis for a group of volunteers to manage and administer your money. And some of them do it really, really well, and some of them get caught up in problems.
Residents have demanded a requisition meeting, the first step to legally terminating the board. John Lancaster, CBC News, Thornhill.
Condo owners are also pointing fingers at a lawyer hired by the condo board. He has ties to a group of men accused of hijacking several condo boards in Toronto in order to gain control of their multi-million-dollar budgets. You can get a lot more information about John's story on our website. Head to cbc.ca/Toronto. And remember, if you have a story you would like us to look into, just send us an email. Send it to torontotips@cbc.ca. Police are releasing images tonight of a woman wanted in connection with a number of hospital thefts. This is a security camera image of the suspect. Now, investigators revealing she's now also wanted in connection with the theft of a car and a number of other items from North York General last Thursday. The woman is also suspected in thefts at Humber River Hospital. On the same day, police say patients had their wallets and personal belongings stolen by someone posing as a hospital visitor. One of the victims was a 95-year-old woman. There is a growing meth problem in our province, according to the OPP. They busted a major lab north of Belleville this weekend and believe it's just one piece of a larger ring, adding to the damage caused by these illegal drug labs. And they say it impacts everything from the communities to the environment. Adrian Chung has more now in the CBC Toronto exclusive.
Hidden inside this quiet country home, an explosive secret stash. In the basement, police say this is evidence of a meth cook in progress, and they find the final product, a container full of what appears to be crystal meth. Investigators say these shards of meth alone could be worth over $15,000 on the street. Buckets of chemicals and cooking bowls are littered everywhere, along with the sink from where OPP say the meth cooks were dumping dangerous waste right down the drain.
What potential chemicals could be in there that you've seen on bus before that make it so dangerous that we can't be inside, that you can't be inside?
There's a lot of dangerous chemicals. The big ones we see are the toluenes, the acetones. There's a lot of dangerous gases that are off products from that cooking process. Red phosphorus, that's highly toxic. For every pound of finished product, depending on what substance they're making, it can be anywhere of 6 pounds of toxic waste is produced.
More often than not, all of that toxic waste is ending up in our water and soil.
There's a huge environmental factor on this and community safety, obviously. I'm talking hundreds of pounds worth of toxic waste are just dumped on side roads. That's why we deal with the Ministry of Environment on that in the event that they've been dumping, say, some of the liquid waste into the water table here.
The OPP fear this is just the start, that they're seeing the cheapest meth prices on the street in years, meaning there will be more demand and likely more labs hiding in plain sight in a growing war against meth. Adrian Chung, CBC News, El Dorado, Ontario.
Canada is vulnerable to foreign interference in this fall's federal election, and politicians say social media companies need to do more to help.
I wouldn't paint them all with the exact same brush. Facebook has taken a few more steps than perhaps Google or Twitter.
We'll bring you that story after this break.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Opposition leader Andrew Scheer isn't backing down on comments he made about the SNC-Lavalin controversy, even after Justin Trudeau threatened him with a lawsuit.
Trudeau should know what he's getting into. I stand by every single criticism I have made of Mr. Trudeau's conduct.
The comments were made by Scheer on March 29th. Scheer accused the Prime Minister of political interference and of lying to Canadians. The comments were called out as inappropriate and highly defamatory by the PM's lawyer. Trudeau has been under fire for the last 2 months. The PMO has been accused of putting pressure on Jody Wilson-Raybould to interfere in the criminal proceedings against SNC-Lavalin. Canada's electronic spy agency says foreign interference in the upcoming federal election is already underway. This communication security establishment, or CSE, says politicians and voters have been increasingly targeted online since 2015. Olivia Stefanovic explains.
In a new report, the CSE says the risk of foreign cyber interference in the upcoming federal election is highly likely. Social media companies play a key role in responding, but the federal government says they've been slow to crack down.
We have not really seen that much progress with them. I think that the platforms feel that this is something that they should be doing on their own, and I don't have the confidence that they are disclosing everything with us.
The government says it wants to see more transparency from Facebook and especially Twitter and Google. The government says it wants social media companies to adopt a similar set of rules that the EU has adopted before Canadians head to the polls in October. But the government says social media companies haven't expressed interest in doing that at this point. Security experts warn that could leave the country vulnerable to disinformation. Twitter trolls stoking debate. Disinformation from foreign entities, such as Russia trying to pass a fake news story that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Chrystia Freeland's grandfather, was a Nazi. The report says more than one foreign foe has the ability to spread false and misleading information. To prepare voters and parliamentarians, the CSE is providing generic advice on how to practice good cyber hygiene, including changing your password frequently and making sure your security settings are up to date. This comes out on the same day as Britain unveils some of the strictest social media rules in the world. Canada, meanwhile, doesn't have the ability to enforce similar practices ahead of the election. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
Israelis vote tomorrow in a crucial test of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's 13-year rule. Observers are casting this election as a referendum on Netanyahu and his hardline conservative policies. He's facing stiff competition from a new centrist coalition, the Blue and White Alliance. In what's widely seen as a controversial last-ditch appeal to his base, Netanyahu is promising to extend Israeli sovereignty over some Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank. Susan Ormiston is in Jerusalem with more.
Our provincial affairs reporter Jacques Poitras joins me now with more on this. So Jacques, who is this couple and why are they so concerned with the Confucius?
Or peel off. I'm Natalie Nanowski, and I'm standing here at Mississauga City Hall. Those are the words used to describe Mississauga's desire to leave Peel Region. Tonight, the city is holding a meeting, and I'll have more on that coming up.
Mississauga residents are getting the opportunity to weigh in on the council's plan to separate from Peel Region. The city is hosting a town hall meeting starting in about 30 minutes. Natalie Danowski is at City Hall ahead of the meeting and joins us now. So, Natalie, this is the only meeting the public can actually participate in.
That's just it, Dwight, and 300 people are expected to fill this space behind me, and it is the only meeting the public is going to be attending because, as you mentioned, council actually voted last month to leave Peel Region, which is made up of Caledon and Brampton. Now, Mississauga is currently the third largest city in Ontario. It has about 800,000 residents, and it's wanted to leave Peel Region for quite some time, since about 2013. Mayor Hazel McCallion proposed that idea, but right now the current mayor, Mayor Bonnie Crombie, says that there is more of an appetite for the province to accept its bid to leave Peel Region. Have a listen.
Tonight I expect to hear a lot of Saga strong and Saga proud, and I know the people of Mississauga want to be a single-tier independent city. Hazel McCallion, our former beloved mayor, started this campaign 15 years ago. It was time then. There wasn't any interest at the provincial government. The difference today is there's interest at the provincial government. There is a political will to change governance structures.
So the review right now is currently before the province, and there is expected to be a decision sometime by the end of this year. And although a lot of people in the city of Mississauga are very keen on this idea, people in the surrounding areas not so much so. We know that in Caledon, many people are saying that the idea is foolish for Mississauga to separate from Peel Region. Meanwhile, the mayor of Brampton, Mayor Patrick Brown, has said that if Mississauga leaves, it's going to owe the city of Brampton millions of dollars because Brampton has helped fund Mississauga's development. However, the mayor of Mississauga, Mayor Bonnie Crombie, says that is not the case, and she is going to do whatever it takes to do what is best for its city. She has pointed out that Mississauga is a very large city and is at a different stage of development, really a lot different than what Brampton is going through or what Caledon is going through. And Mississauga needs transit, and it needs affordable housing, and it needs to separate from Peel Region in order to do all of that. Dwight?
Yeah, we'll continue to follow this debate. Thank you for that, Natalie. Our Leafs begin their postseason against the Boston Bruins on Thursday. The Bruins, of course, knocked them out in the first round last year. Greg Ross joins us live now from Scotiabank Arena. Greg, the playoffs could make or break some of our younger talent on this team.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of extra pressure for some players on this Leaf roster going into this playoff run. Players who have been a big part of this rebuild for the Leafs, players who want to be here to be a part of this team, but are now finding themselves wondering if this is going to be their last chance to do something big, their last chance to go on a long playoff run with the Leafs.
In behind the net, swings it in front. Janssen scores!
As Leafs forward Andreas Janssen gets set for another playoff run, he admits it's hard not to wonder if this will be his last with the team.
You think a little bit about it, you talk about it with your family, with your agents and friends.
Kasperi Kapanen in short-handed scores!
Kasperi Kapanen is another player whose future with the Leafs is uncertain, but he says for now, he's put it out of his mind.
Once you go into the playoffs, everybody's excited. We want to get it started. So I think it'll be easy for us to kind of just forget about all that stuff because there's really no point.
Neither Janssen or Kapanen have a contract for next season. The way they play in the playoffs this year could have an impact on them.
There's a double-edged sword to the Maple Leafs having a good playoff or a bad one because there's going to be a lot of contracts that are affected by it.
Both Janssen and Kapanen are coming off breakout seasons for the Leafs. Both finished with 20 goals and both are in line for big raises.
But I feel like the more games I get to play, the more confident I get to play in this league.
Didn't really come into the season with high expectations, and I think I've been playing pretty well.
The question is, can the Leafs afford to keep them? They're among a group of 8 players entering free agency, a list that includes the likes of Mitch Marner and Jake Gardiner, who are also going to be seeking hefty contracts, all of which the Leafs will have to try and fit under the league's salary cap.
It's going to be a tight fit, and it might require some trades. It's going to be some, some interesting late nights with the bean counters, I think, you're trying to figure out who's going to stay, who can go.
If Janssen and Kapanen have their way, this will be just one of many playoff runs with the Leafs.
Obviously, you can't fit every player, but I mean, it's a good team. You want to be here.
Every year I feel more and more comfortable, and it's just, you know, it's pretty much home to me now. So for sure I'd love to stick.
And I'm sure Leafs General Manager Kyle Dubas would like to have both players back. In fact, the Leafs have already tried to negotiate with the agents for both of these players on contracts for next season. At this point, they haven't come to terms on any kind of deal. But let's put things into perspective. The Leafs are looking at a salary right now of about $70 million. The salary cap for next season is going to be about $83 million. They have a number of big-name players they have to sign. There's 8 of them, including Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner was the leading scorer for the Leafs this year, Dwight, and people are already saying he's going to be looking to get about $10 million. So it is going to be tight to fit under all of these players under that cap.
Stanley Cups aren't cheap, buddy. Thanks, Greg. All right, let's head back to Nick. And a warning for the early gardeners, Nick, maybe clean up, but not put anything in the ground yet.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just a little bit too early. Mother Nature has a bit of a cruel sense of humor, I suppose. We had a beautiful weekend. I mean, some rain showers, but temperature-wise, it was great. Today, 14.3 degrees. That's what we hit. The average temperature for today, 9.6. So well above the average. And in fact, even our overnight lows, 5.5 compared to an average of minus 0.6. So pretty good on that temperature front, but we've got a little bit of a cool down midweek. Tonight, still going to stay relatively mild. We're under some cloud cover right now. This is generally going to clear out, and then we've got the risk of some fog patches developing across the GTA. But we are watching this storm system up to the north. Now, as it slides across, most of the rain from this is going to stay well north of the GTA, but we'll get clipped with a few showers headed into tomorrow. Here's a look at the forecast over the next couple of days. Now, tomorrow morning, around the morning commute, that's 8 a.m. We're looking at some showers, very short-lived though, and not heavy rainfall. It clears out, and then with the wind shifting to the north, we'll get a couple bands of showers coming down, but they should bookend the GTA. Now, areas out toward Oshawa may see some rain showers, but I think Toronto, for the most part, most of the Golden Horseshoe is generally going to stay just under cloud cover for tomorrow. By Wednesday morning, things clear out, but what we're watching, though, is Thursday morning. This is moving through. As temperatures drop, this blue color here is snow, and the pink is mixed precipitation. Not heavy snow, not a lot of mixed precipitation, but enough that it could slick up the roads for an hour or two before the temperatures warm up above 0. We'll get to that in just a second here in the long-range forecast. There's a look at the rainfall accumulations that we're expecting for tomorrow. Broadly speaking, 1 or 2 millimeters of rain, perhaps a couple more in some areas, but most of the rain is going to stay to the north there. Winds will be a bit of a factor again tomorrow as wind gusts start to pick up to about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour through the late morning into the afternoon. Now, they do drop off heading into Wednesday, but that northerly wind is what's driving in some of those cooler temperatures over the next couple of days. There's a look at tonight, temperatures sitting at 5-6 degrees and some fog patches tomorrow, 11-13 degrees, and again, those are morning showers for the most part. 7 degrees on Wednesday, it looks good. We've got mainly sunny skies Wednesday night. That system moves in. Mixed precipitation is possible for Wednesday to Thursday morning, and then we get some rain showers Thursday, the risk of a few wet flurries Thursday night, but by Friday, we're back into the warm stuff. So short-lived, but be warned about this day over here. We could get a little bit of a blast, hopefully the last blast, sort of winter.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Thank you, Nick.
Cheers.
If you're an adult with autism in Canada, stats say you're most likely unemployed. The 3rd annual Autism Job Fair took place today to help people on the spectrum find meaningful work.
I think people have been aware of what autism is now.
Well, I was told that after
it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to look down. It's not a burden. It's not anything bad. It's just something that a lot of people have, and it's not a big deal. I'm very determined. I have a great sense of humor, but most importantly, I'm very meticulous. I think if you give me the time, I could be a very reliable worker.
Participants had access to workshops and employment consulting. They were also given one-on-one interviews with 17 of Canada's top employers, including Apple, General Motors, Scotiabank, and Loblaws.
like the way that the organizers are kind of having candidates come into each booth, like one at a time, and we're just spending that time, you know, directing our focus and attention on them, answering their questions and asking them about their specific skills and interests.
Organizers say this is part of an initiative to fight the stigma attached to people living on the spectrum. The national program is also taking place in Richmond, BC and Montreal. There's more evidence that reading to young children can pay off. A new U.S. study says kids who have at least 5 books read to them daily will enter kindergarten having read 1.4 million more words than youngsters who aren't read to at all. But does it matter if those books are in print or electronic? Cass Rusi went looking for answers.
Tweet, tweet, says the parrot.
Every sound.
My car needs oil.
Every image.
Let's count the fish. Ready? 1.
Every lesson has these youngsters thoroughly engaged. Whether it's story time at the library or at home, reading books out loud not only helps develop early language and social skills, it taps into their imagination and creativity too.
Ever since she was little, has loved print books. She likes to play with them and handle them.
What does a sheep say? Ba. Ba. Good job.
But with ebooks and tablets becoming the choice for many readers, parents like Colleen Russo believe they can be a much richer experience for her daughter Ripley.
It really does foster excitement in her and encourages her to dive deeper into the book.
In a recent study, researchers wondered if the format of books used made any difference in how parents and children interact with each other. Lead author Tiffany Munzer said print books fostered more interaction and improved dialogue between parent and toddler.
Parents often, when reading print books, will ask open-ended questions or will relate some of the story content back to the child's life experiences.
She found toddlers were distracted by the technology that comes with ebooks.
Some of the dialogue that might have been happening around an electronic book might be swipe that page or tap that button or don't touch that page or don't turn that or don't tap that button.
The question is how we interpret it, right? And what we make of it.
This educational researcher at the University of Toronto agrees with many points in this study, but she also believes there's value in ebooks for children, especially if it comes with parental support.
Given that we know that these devices can be used in a positive way for children's learning, how can you get them to think deeply about the story and to make inferences about the story that they wouldn't otherwise without the parents' support?
Try to stick to more of the content of the story and try not to focus so much on the actual technology itself because it might distract away from the key pieces of learning.
Truck jam.
Both sides of the debate agree. Reading, whether on a tablet or a book, is better than no reading at all. Cass Rusi, CBC News, Toronto.
Police have identified a man who died after a weekend shooting in Pickering. It happened around 6:30 Sunday morning near Kingston and Brock Roads. 24-year-old Matthew Raciti of Pickering was found in an empty parking lot behind a rec center. He died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. Now, Durham police say they are looking for multiple suspects. Investigators say they don't have a motive for the shooting, adding it's also not clear if the victim was actually targeted. Slow down, save a life. That's the message Toronto police are sending to drivers with a new awareness campaign.
A crash that occurs at 30 kilometers per hour, people have a 90% chance of just walking away. No injuries or very little injury. But you double the speed to 60 kilometers per hour, 90% chance that person is going to succumb to injuries as a result of that crash.
The Slow Down Toronto campaign kicked off today and lasts all week. It's aimed at preventing injuries and deaths of pedestrians and cyclists. Police say they are seeing far too many motorists ignoring speed limits. During the campaign, officers will be talking to drivers and stepping up enforcement of traffic laws. A recent recall by Honda and its proposed buyback has landed the company in trouble with some of its customers. Close to 84,000 CRVs have been recalled for rust issues, but some owners say their Honda solutions are a problem too. Yvonne Colbert has the story.
Rothsay, New Brunswick resident Renee Landry is no longer driving her 2007 Honda CRV. Instead, it's sitting at a Honda dealership. She'd taken it in for windshield wiper repairs, only to be told it was under recall and could not be fixed. She was told she had two choices: take Honda's buyout offer or sign a document releasing Honda of any liability.
And I feel as though the vehicle should not be assessed for value by the only people who are willing to buy it out. I just don't think it's a fair process.
Landry's vehicle was paid off and she expected to get another few years' use out of it. She says she can't buy a comparable vehicle for the amount she's being offered. The Canadian Automobile Protection Association's George Eny says Honda's process for calculating buyout amounts is not clear. He says some of the car makers' offers are very generous, others are not. Eny says the recall allows for a more detailed assessment, one that could lead to repairs, which is what Landry wanted. However, Eny says not everyone is being offered that option, and in some cases are being urged to buy a new Honda instead. Landry says she felt pressured when Honda gave her 1 week to decide, or the dealership would start charging storage fees. The dealership has since said it will not do that. There are no laws governing how buybacks are calculated, but Honda says it uses a variety of information. It says its offer to Landry is reasonable. Yvonne Colbert, CBC News, Halifax.
We had some technical difficulties earlier, but let's head back to Jerusalem, where tomorrow Israelis will vote in a crucial test of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's 13-year rule. Susan Ormiston has more.
This is a razor-tight race here in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu looking for an unprecedented 5th term after 13 years in all in government. Up against Blue and White, a new party, a centrist party led by a former general and military chief of staff, Benny Gantz. And this morning, Benjamin Netanyahu was here in this market making a spirited plea for votes, saying, don't sit on your heels, please go out and vote for the Likud party. The hour is late. He needs enough seats to make him the biggest party in order to go then and be able to form a government with coalition right-wing parties. And at the moment, they are the stronger base. However, anything can happen, and that he has been sort of lobbing drama into this campaign over the last 48 hours on Saturday night, telling a television interviewer that he will extend sovereignty to Jewish settlements in the West Bank. That is a contentious issue here. The Palestinians see that as a barrier to peace. Israeli media is sort of saying that this is election last-minute promise, not necessarily a change of policy. We'll only know whether he moves forward with that if he's elected. And of course, this prime minister faces potential indictment after this election on alleged corruption. So that is complicating the main ballot question here for Israelis, which really is Benjamin Netanyahu's time up? We have seen pretty strong response and people asking for change for a variety of reasons, saying he's done good things for this country, the economy is strong, but they want less division, they want more consensus, talking through people, and of course the security issue is always uppermost in Israeli politics. So it's tight. The votes start tomorrow in all of Israel, and it'll be a long night counting on Tuesday evening. Susan Ormiston, CBC News in Jerusalem.
Welcome to the Rock. If you come from away, you'll probably understand about a half of what we say. They say no man's an island, but an island makes a man. Especially when one comes from a like Newfoundland. Welcome to the Rock.
That morning I'm in the class.
And many welcome the Canadian musical overseas. Come From Away has been triumphant in the UK and made Canadian musical history at the Olivier Awards in London. We'll take you there after the break.
I told them we'd only have a half day this morning, and they were quite...
Welcome to the Rock. If you come from away, you'll probably understand about a half of what we say. They say no man's an island, but an island makes a man. Especially when one comes from a like Newfoundland. Welcome to the Rock.
The cast of Come From Away performing during the Olivier Awards last night in London. The musical was nominated for 9 awards and managed to make Canadian theatre history along the way. Eli is here to tell us all about it. So how did this little Canadian play make history?
Little Canadian play winning the Laurence Olivier Award for Best New Musical. I mean, this is the British Tonys. For this Canadian production to win that is pretty impressive. And they took home 3 other awards. So they also got Outstanding Achievement in Music, Best Theatre, Choreography, and Best Sound. So, of course, what you're seeing there, this all started with the husband and wife team, Irene Sankoff and David Hine, who wrote the book, the music, the lyrics. They met the people of Gander and the passengers at an anniversary event, and eventually it led to this amazing musical inspired by that true story of what happened in Gander when 6,500 passengers arrived after those flights were diverted on September 11th, 2001. And we heard a comment actually from David Hine, one of the co-creators, who talking about, this is the British Awards, as I mentioned, but the play has been doing quite quite well there. You think maybe because of Brexit, and David was saying, you know, there's so much division and confusion, this show about people coming together and about kindness, that seems to be resonating. Now, the creators, because they're Canadian perhaps, and they're up against a lot of very prestigious British productions, they didn't win, they didn't write an acceptance speech. And so they were caught a little off guard, but we have a really cute Facebook video I want to show you. This is the various Come From Away productions, including Toronto's own, reacting after the win. Take a look. So you got the New York show, you got the Toronto show, and you got the Road show, all very excited, very exuberant. Let me show you something a little more emotional and a little less cheering. This is Kelly Devine. She's the choreographer, so she won last night. And listen what she has to say about the connection to the East.
I want to thank the town of Gander and all the surrounding towns in Newfoundland. They effortlessly showed the world how easy it is to be kind, and so I just want to always remember that. We should just be kind to each other. So thanks, this means the world to me.
She's an American choreographer, but you hear that emotion in her voice. And the thing is, like, she went to Gander. A lot of them, even when they're now kind of franchising this show, they put in the work, they go out there, they meet the people, and I think that authenticity gets there on the stage.
So much easier to be kind. I love that line. What's on the horizon for this little play that's taking over the world?
Okay, so let me show you something. We have an interesting visual. You can see the now 4 productions in London, Toronto, the Road Show, and Broadway. But there's more on the way. Argentina, they're going to do a show there. Australia, Come From Away, is going to go over there. And then what's next? A movie. So the creators have just got back from Hollywood, where they've been taking meetings, as they say. They want to make Come From Away, the movie, as soon as possible. So of course people start speculating, well, who's going to be the, you know, Liam Neeson as the mayor? Like, how's this going to work? But they know it's not going to be that way. No famous faces. They want the real people. That the star has to be Gander. That's what they want it to be. And David was saying, you know, this is a time of walls and travel bans. And so again, it's that spirit of coming together and kindness. As you said, something about that seems to be resonating.
We knew The Rock was a wonderful place. Now the rest of the world knows that too. Thanks, Eli.
You're welcome.
Astronaut David Saint-Jacques is now the 4th Canadian ever to have performed a spacewalk on the International Space Station.
Okay, check on hand. Green light is on.
St. Jacques and American and McLean started the spacewalk by checking their suits and tethering themselves to the station. Then, for the next 6.5 hours, they did maintenance work on the power and communication systems. One major task was to connect jumper cables for a backup power supply to the Canadarm2, which will allow the robotic arm to make repairs in case of an outage. Notice St. Jacques. Notice his arm there. You see it right there, a small but proud display of the red and white maple leaf. And this beautiful shot of Casa Loma, submitted by Robbie Stiles to our Show Us Your GTA pick this week on this Monday. Get your photos to us by posting them on Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag CBCYourGTA, and we will air some of them on the show. A lot of green in that pic. I wonder what he took it. Not like that out there right now.
Yeah,
not yet.
No, not yet. I said, you know, Mother Nature seems to have a little bit of a cruel sense of humor with all of this.
Especially with our plants this time of year.
I know. I was asking around, like, do you start planting this early? But I think you probably delay a little bit because of stuff like this, right? Anyway, it's not going to be that bad, but we are looking at a little bit of a cool down midweek. Now, tonight, still pretty warm, 6 degrees. Watch for some fog patches for tomorrow morning. Also some isolated showers for the morning commute. After that, though, tomorrow, just mainly cloudy skies, 11 degrees. A little bit of a cool down into the long range. Like I said, the coldest of the days coming on Thursday at about 3 degrees. And then after that, we're hoping that it's all uphill from there.
We have a short growing season. We got to get those seeds into the ground. That is it for us tonight. Thank you for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Have a great night, everybody. Mike White's got you covered at 11.